Welcome to the Lightkeepers Podcast. I'm Clayton Vandiver, your Lightkeeper, with the show dedicated to everyone who wants to get the most quality out of life that they can. My co-host, as always, Charlene, our very own tame licensed clinical social worker, certified in the state of Florida. We invite you to join the conversation this week, which is about professional versus amateur support. Just who is that person and what qualifies them to help me? And so much more on this edition of the Lightkeepers Podcast. Before we start, I'd like to invite you to please leave your questions or comments below. We always love to hear from you. Questions this week will be answered during our next show that appears online every Wednesday evening at 7 p.m. Eastern. Hi, this is Clayton Vandiver, your Lightkeeper, and this summer we have a very special treat for you. It's called Lightkeepers Podcast Shorts. It's not a new clothing line, but that's a pretty good idea. Actually, it's just shorter episodes, under 10 minutes long, of our most popular episodes that we keep getting requests to play again. So here's part 2 of the Lightkeepers Podcast Shorts.
But if this is something that you want to do for a living full-time, go to school, get trained how to do it. That way you're not putting others at risk of injury,
Exactly.
mental or physical. And you're not putting yourself in danger of litigation, because in some states it's actually illegal to provide therapeutic support without a license.
Very, very good point. And we were talking before the show a little bit about sometimes a psychiatrist is different than a psychologist, and one does one thing, one does another thing. Can you share a little bit about that?
Absolutely.
That sort of ties into what you were just saying.
And a lot of people don't know the difference. A psychiatrist is a doctor who is trained on how to prescribe medication to treat mental health issues.
Okay, a medical professional.
Exactly. Someone
Yeah.
who focuses on the medication side of things,
Right,
like a
okay.
pharmacist.
Gotcha.
Versus a therapist, a psychologist, or a licensed clinical social worker, or a licensed mental health counselor. These are people who cannot prescribe medication because they're not trained in the medication side of it, but they are trained in providing that therapeutic support, that counseling, which a psychiatrist is not.
So it would be unethical if you were to be prescribing medications, because that's not something you've been educated to do. That's
Not just
something you're able to
unethical,
do.
but highly illegal. And that's why a common phrase that you'll hear in the clinical world is stay in your lane. And what that means is
Good advice.
don't do something that you're not trained and licensed to do. As a licensed clinical social worker, I would not even fathom giving someone medical direction. I may give them medical advice in terms of, hey, ask your doctor about ... But I would never say, this is your diagnosis, this is what you need to do, because I'm not trained.
And that's something we do right here. We say every week, this is a conversation about conditions and health and situations that you might face, and definitely seek the advice of your own medical personnel, your own personal counselor, your own personal advisor, who knows your unique needs and situation and can best advise what's best for you. Because this is just a conversation to sort of stimulate the possibilities, and not in any way to give you advice that you should follow, except in seeking professional help and asking that personal counselor that knows your situation, hey, do you think this might apply to me, or do you think this might help me, or what could I do better? It's just like in my line of work, if you're wanting to make a little home movie, you might seek the professional guidance of someone who went to film school and used their advice, their best practices, because they're certainly going to know more about it than the guy that just got his first cell phone and said, "Oh, video, click. Hey, look, it makes pictures."
And there's a lot of areas that this overlaps onto that people don't realize. I'm going to give you a wonderful example of that. Something that is a little pet peeve of mine. When someone creates advanced directives, which we talk about a lot here on the show because they're so important, which is basically advanced directives are the documents that you put into place to direct what type of medical treatment you would want if you were to become seriously ill and not able to make your own medical decisions. So think living will, medical power of attorney. People go to attorneys to have these done all the time, and that's great. Attorneys know the law, but they don't know medicine, and they don't know those medical procedures. And so you have someone with legal documents that say, if I become seriously ill, I do not want any extensive measures put into place to keep me alive. What defines extensive? Some people say
they're not necessarily going to know what an extensive measure is.
Exactly. And some people say, well, I don't want tubes or machines. Okay, you don't want a tube or a machine to keep you alive. What if there's an opportunity of recovery? What if you only need that machine temporarily? What if the doctor doesn't know if it's temporary or permanent? Is your loved one going to know what to do? They're going to look at the paper and say, well, he said he didn't want anything extensive done, so sorry.
That's a very, very good point. And it also gives us an opportunity when you're wondering who to turn to and who to look to. You know that the professionals at A Guiding Light are there to train professionals in doing many of the things that we're talking about.
Exactly.
And so if you see someone who has been vetted and who has the Guiding Light symbol that we have on our coffee cups, you know that they are going to be someone that is not operating like a witch doctor. They actually not only know what they're talking about, they can refer you to other professionals that they are confident in their capabilities.
Absolutely.
So that's the sort of thing that we try to do here, is connect people to resources that can give them the best service in their lives.
Knowledge
Quality
is power.
of life. Knowledge is power. Quality of life is the whole purpose of this show and our conversations. Now, we don't have much time, but this episode leads us to a perfect opportunity to mention that several listeners have been asking about us personally and our backgrounds. You know, what makes us professionals instead of witch doctors. That sounds like something we got into that just a little touch today. You got a feeling for, hey, I'm really a video guy and, you know, a broadcaster, and this is really a medical professional, a mental health specialist. But it sounds like something we might spend a little bit more time with, and in helping our viewers and listeners understand who we are and what our interests are and our backgrounds. Maybe we could do an entire show about that.
Yeah.
Let's dedicate next week to that. How about that?
We can do that.
Well, it's always good to be willing to talk about quality of life, because every single one of us will face some of these issues someday. Either not prepared at all or very well prepared indeed. From joining us here on the Lightkeepers Podcast each and every Wednesday evening at 7 p.m. Eastern. The Lightkeepers Podcast is an exclusive production of Vanimation Studios and is brought to you by A Guiding Light, a 501c3 nonprofit organization dedicated to education and information that allows informed preparation for living the very best life possible. The mission of A Guiding Light is to provide education for professionals and information for everyone else about life planning, available guidance, and counseling that helps individuals and their family navigate options that improve the quality of their remaining days. The organization is committed to training professionals through scholarship grants when needed, who will help you find the best information and options to meet your planning needs that are available in your area, so you can be aware of your choices, confident in your decisions, and at peace that you've made the very best decisions to live life on your own terms. Visit the website at aguidinglight.org or make a tax-deductible contribution that helps others find the information and resources they need. You can send your check to the address that's right below me right now. We're so grateful for your support and sincerely hope you'll join the conversation in coming weeks. Add your questions and comments below. Speaking of that, hit the like and subscribe buttons. It is free. And turn on that notify bell so you'll catch every single episode. I'm Clayton Vandiver, your Lightkeeper. We'll see you next time.